Hi, and welcome to the Unashamedly Human podcast, a podcast created to help you get out of your head and into your life. That is, if you want to have more fun, freedom, happiness, peace of mind, and success whilst squeezing the juice out of every area of your life. Join Jacquie Forde every Thursday.
Hi everyone and welcome to the Unashamedly Human podcast. As you know by now, my name is Jacquie Forde. I am a coach and a mentor living in Scotland but working globally. My God, what's happening with this COVID pandemic? It seems to be one step forward and 40 steps backward at the moment. Something I always love to do, and you heard me speaking about it in the podcast last week, is I love doing intensives. And during the pandemic, what's been happening is I have had to do these intensives online because of travel restrictions, and people haven't, been wanting to come and do things in person. And I told you in the podcast last week I was just so freaking excited that I would get to do an in-person intensive with one of my apprentices, Pamela. And we have just spent the last 3 days together, and when you've got somebody sitting in your front room and the fire's going and it's comfortable and it's peaceful and the candles are lit and you've just had an absolutely cracking weekend together, it just seems right to sit down and, to just have a chat and see what comes out of the podcast, because we have had a hoot together. I think Pam's seen how I have a filter, but it just doesn't work, it's broken. And Amazon don't seem to have a replacement for me. None of them seem to be working. And Pam has also seen some really, really gorgeous things about her human experience, and I'm hoping that at some point we're going to get to share them during this podcast. So, Pam, it's lovely having you here, and it has been lovely having you here. And I would love for you just to introduce yourself to people and explain to them what brought you here in the first place, as comfortably as you can.
Sure. Well, thank you for having me here and on the podcast. It is lovely sitting in front of the fire and just watching the beautiful flames and stuff. And excuse the voice, I'm a little bit croaky, but I think that's possibly too much laughing, speaking, and potentially thinking I had COVID at one point. But obviously we've tested, and I don't, so that's good. But what brought me here? So I've always lived what I would say is a fast-paced life, and particularly in my head, I think, and sort of high-powered jobs, high-powered social life, high-powered everything, really. I would say I'd never happier than I was up to my neck and everything, and then it just all became too much. And I've always been interested in spirituality and coaching and things like that. I'm an HR professional with my own consultancy firm, so people are a huge thing for me. But you come back to that thing where you can't really help anyone else until you can help yourself. And I think I kind of ran myself into the ground and was looking always years and years and years, and lots of alternative stuff that I would call alternative, Reiki, angels, anything soothing. I was looking for something to soothe me, I believe. And I came across the principles probably initially about 4 years ago, and kind of dipped my toes in the water here and there and different things and stuff. But I kind of knew when I started that this could be different. And so I dipped in and out of it, and amongst a chaotic life and stuff. And then the chaos, I don't know if it was compounded by lockdown and, working at home in a room and being isolated and stuff. But, somewhere I saw this thing that said, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And, I love all that stuff where it's meant to be.
Me too.
Oh, love it, just love it. And I think back to how I found you, Jacquie, and it's like I honestly can't remember the exact moment, but I just knew when I think I saw you on YouTube or something, or I probably googled 3 Principles Scotland or something, and you came up, and I started looking into you and stalking you online, and then the kind of rest of it is history to a certain extent, because we're here today, and we connected, and you know, it felt like the right thing to do. And you know, I remember, I think, saying to you, I think this is my last stop.
Yeah.
If this doesn't, you know, because I just so wanted to get this. Thought I could see other people. I could feel that other people could see something, feel something, live a different life, and I just really wanted that. And oh, it's just been the most fantastic experience. But yeah, I'm going to pause for a second, because that's a little bit of a long intro, and you know, and that's when the emotions and stuff start to come, when you're sitting and reflecting. And yeah, deep breath time for me.
Listen, people that you're listening. That this is something that I am really grateful for, because she hasn't stopped talking all weekend. So a wee pause is quite nice. No, I'm joking. It's been a lovely experience, and as you can hear, Pam's from Scotland too. She's further up north of Scotland than I am, so you're going to hear differences in our accents, but still these gorgeous Scottish lilts. You know what Pam's pointing to is really, really true. I found this in my own journey to awakening. To me, it's a journey of awakening. It's not just, you know, a journey of learning about the principles. I think there's a moment in all of our lives where we feel that life isn't quite right, and there's something else. And what we naturally do is we look outside of ourselves. That's the cosmic joke. We look outside of ourselves to find the answers. So I found myself, as you all know, in the self-help section of various bookstores, the stories there. Kids were in the store, Dad was in the stores, and my husband, Mr. Lovely. Jerry couldn't find me, asked the girls where Mum is, and at 4, 6 and 2, my kids could go Mum's in the self-help section. So from the age of about 30, I was looking outside of myself for answers. So did the self-help, became an NLP trainer, became a hypnotherapist, became an NLP master trainer, became an NLP advanced master trainer, and still wasn't quite where I knew I wanted to be. I knew there was more, you know, and I know Pam will talk about this later as well. It's kind of like there's something that keeps pulling you, and you don't settle. You just don't settle. And so I went away and I studied with Wayne Dwyer, I studied with Barbara DeAngelis, studied with Eckhart Tolle, because I knew there was a spiritual component, there was something else. You know, and I was brought up as a religious person, and I've always believed there was something bigger, more maleficent than me, that, you know, that I wasn't in control, but I wanted to be in control. And I believed I was in control for many, many a year. And it was only when I came across the principles that I realised that I'd went from searching to knowing. Now, that doesn't mean it's the end of learning and development. It doesn't mean it's the end of wanting to know more or looking at things more deeply. For me, what it meant was I didn't have that horrific, I have to listen to 50 podcasts a day and watch God knows how many videos and read so many books. There wasn't that, and I talk about this too, this vampire-like hunger to satiate my search. I settled. I guess that's what I'm pointing to, I settled.
Do you know, there's so many things there that are so similar to my story. When you say, like, the self-help books and stuff, you know, I've got a friend of mine that we used to swap books and stuff, and she used to say to me, I found this book and it's called such and such, and I'd be like, look at me, it doesn't work, I've read it.
Did you just hold the cover though? Did you just hold it, want it to infuse through your being? Yes. Because so many people do that, they don't actually read the bloody book.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny but you do, you and I think all of these things get you maybe did get me a step closer to where I am now. But even when I listen to the similarities, Jacquie, of the stories, I'm further down this journey now, and I'm starting to see that it's not a coincidence that people feel the same. I think there's, you know, just because we don't talk about it and share our fears and stuff, you know, I've lived lot of my life in fear, and just because you're good at your job, you're a professional, you're this, you're that, you can't say, actually, I'm scared of myself.
Yeah.
Because you can't admit any weakness or anything in these corporate world, etc. So it's not until you meet like-minded people and stuff that you actually realise everybody's got so much in common about the fear of life and the fear of yourself and this. And that I knew there was something in here that could maybe take some of that away, maybe take some of that away. And I just kept going and going. I remember people saying, stay in the conversation. And there has been times when I've been like, I can't hear what you're saying. I can't hear it. And I did the same thing. I'd finish work on a Friday night and just listen to podcast after podcast, YouTube after YouTube about 3 principles, and try and I was suffocating myself with 3 principle stuff, and I still couldn't get it. And then, but something told me to keep going, keep going.
And it's in that keeping going, Pam, there's trust, isn't there? There's trust that there is something there. There's a knowing that you can't explain, that you just can't articulate. When you were talking about sort of corporate, I mean, that's my story as well, over 3 decades in corporate, and high-flying positions, excellent salaries, excellent perks. And, it comes with a pair of handcuffs. They want blood. They want their money's worth out of you. And I remember, Pam, because, 3 young kids. My husband, we'd just moved house. My dad had just been diagnosed with bowel cancer. My mum wasn't particularly well. They lived in a different city. I remember the fear of thinking, I can't lose my job. I can't lose my job. I'm the main earner here. I can't lose it. And I put up with an awful lot of stuff that wore me down, Pam. It was exhausting. There was bullying in the workplace. There was a lot of judgment from people. It wasn't healthy. It was toxic. It was a toxic workplace. But I just kept going because I was scared that we'd set ourselves up for this lifestyle and I couldn't walk away from it. I felt trapped that I couldn't walk away from it. And then I had all the things about my dad dying and my mum and the 3 young kids, 3 of our daughters, and I was burning out, Pam. I was stressed and I was burning out, and I didn't know that that's what was happening to me. Yeah. I really didn't know. And that was why I was searching. I was like, I don't feel right. And I thought it was me. I didn't realise that it was the environment and it was the other people and it was my perception of all of it. Mm-hmm. I was replaying scenarios over and over and over in my head, conversations over and over, reading emails and looking for the deeper meaning of what people were saying to me and not accepting things at face value because I didn't feel safe and I felt anxious and I was overwhelmed with life, with my family, with my job, with my boss, with the situation. Because when I was growing up, I was a child of the 60s. So the stories and the conditioning that I was given growing up, where you can have it all, Jackie, you can have the high-flying career and you can have your family, you can have it all. Don't talk to people about what you're feeling and thinking, because there was a huge stigma around mental health and stress and depression and all of these things. Just keep it to yourself, keep quiet. So I learned not to talk about how I was feeling. I learned that, you throw lemons at me, I'll make lemonade. Don't rain on my parade. All of this. I'm a strong woman and I had my power play on we didn't have Spotify then. I had my 40 CDs in my Walkman or in my car that I would play to sort of to give me that boost of external self-confidence I felt to get me through things. So I wasn't dealing with feelings, emotions, thoughts. I was suppressing, repressing thought. And that's not healthy. But because nobody talked about it at the time and there was such a stigma, what do you do? What do you do? Whereas I feel now it's much easier for people. And in that suppression, what happens is you soothe, time to to do things that make you feel better. And for me, it was eating. It was, I ate, and I didn't realise I was doing it.
And same for me. You're looking for that escape. I'm like the typical Bridget Jones. The longest relationship I've had is with a bottle of wine, and that was my solace. It's like, how quickly can I get the wine opened?
Yeah.
When I get in the door, it's like the wine's open before my jacket's hung up, type of thing. That's when we used to work in an office, and then when you don't work in an office, then it can become more of a problem, really, because you've got that available to you. But it seems strange now because it's such a short amount of time, I think, compared to the time I've been on the planet, that I've been working with you, Jacquie, and how that's really changed for me. I just feel so much healthier now, and so much more in control of my thinking. Controls doesn't even feel like the right word, because it's just eased away. The mental sort of torment of ruminating about everything that everybody said and everything that I said, and oh goodness me, I was exhausted. And maybe sitting having a couple of glasses of wine at night was how you switched off that switch, or tried to, kind of thing. But
I mean, alcohol, Pam, sort of, it lowers your awareness. People think that it helps them sleep, but it doesn't. It lowers your awareness. You make decisions you wouldn't normally make.
Yeah.
And
you probably wake up in the morning and you're not feeling any better. You're putting yourself on the back foot before you start. But certainly, I mean, this is a really interesting experience, because there's something there, and it's almost a bit like I was thinking about this morning, and it's like, it's almost, for my experience of it has been that it's like joining up the dots and all of this. There is no one answer. You say, well, how does this work? It's really difficult to articulate that and say, how does it work? But when you see it, you see it, and and you can't unsee it. And for a long time, I couldn't see it, and it used to drive me nuts. And I used to get really annoyed when I saw other people who could see it.
That's so common.
It's terrible. I feel really. I was happy for them, but I was like, why can't I get that? And as Jacquie and I have already spoken about at length this morning, that something happened for me yesterday that just joined that extra dot that I needed. I felt I needed to say, this, I've seen this. I've seen how this works. Because I understood it all, I got it, and I could understand how that would work. But I hadn't seen it. And when I did see it, it was so almost laughable. It was almost like, who's the joke been on this whole time? A really weird, I'll call it weird, but lovely experience of, that's actually what you're thinking's not actually true. It's not actually what's happening. You're thinking that's why you're feeling so bad. And you realise you're doing that yourself. And I'm like, I wanted to laugh, cry. I felt like I said to Jacquie, I think I won the lottery today. And genuinely, that's how I felt. Amazing.
It's a real relief, isn't it, that you can see the source of suffering, and to be able to laugh at that and see the joke behind it, instead of giving yourself a hard time that you've spent, and I'm talking for myself here, Pam, that you've spent decades in turmoil through no fault of your own. Just to see that and be okay with that, and see the joke behind it. And this is why I laugh a lot, and this is why I love having fun, and this is why I do hold things very, very lightly. is because being able to see what you've seen and I've seen on this earth right now is pretty rare.
Yeah.
And there are so many people out there that are suffering needlessly.
Oh, totally. And if you, it's like I was saying to you this morning, that the beauty of this is so much in the seeing. I don't want that to have sounded like a bit of a serious moment there. It is a serious moment because God, I know what it's like to go through turmoil in your own head, and nobody else knows it's happening. But when I walked in here this morning, because I'd been crying on the way here, laughing on the way here when I was driving because of this experience that I'd had, and then we were chatting away, and all that's in my head just now is, I've got it, I've seen it, I've got it. And I come in and I said, chatting away to Jacquie, and I said, you never guess what though, I mean I feel a bit better today, but I've got it. And I couldn't wait to tell her, and she, what you've got COVID? I was like,
Your senses beforehand were all about COVID and your cough and your cold.
It was so it was so funny. My mind's on the total, all my head is full of is, thinking, but I'd started off the sentence with, I felt a lot better when I got up today because I've got this cold, but no, I've got it.
What was I meant to think? I've got it. I feel better today. I've still got a cold. My head's stuffed up. But I've got it, Jacquie. It's like, what? COVID? As I call it, the COVID. You got the COVID.
The COVID. So you nearly had a guest for 10 days.
Yeah. I wouldn't have minded. I'd just put you in the west wing and shut you in your room and left you there.
Beautiful place to isolate. In fact, I think I do have it.
As you know, Jenny and I wouldn't care. We'd be like, come on in, it's fine. Come on in and you'll have had your tea though. Jenny's from Edinburgh. They're not known for their generosity. Sorry for all my Edinburgh listeners. I know that you are not like that. I just love making that joke, especially being from Glasgow, because Glaswegians are just so open and friendly and generous, and they're a breed unto them. I mean, they really are. Love Glasgow people.
Oh, I love Glasgow as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Beautiful people.
Yeah.
So, it's lovely to rest in this space and then to be able to see something and see something new. And for some people that comes, listen to podcasts, it comes listening to, a webinar or somebody speaking, or it comes from reading a book. And I love that because we all have insight. And Pam and I were talking about something this weekend that I think is incredibly important, because Pam had a relationship to alcohol. Wasn't bad, but she had a relation to alcohol that she wanted to change. And at the first part of Pam's apprenticeship, it's all about grounding. It's like, I want to help whoever I'm working with, my apprentice, get into a space where they know themselves. And Pam said that earlier. If you know yourself, you understand yourself, things start to change. And so the first part of Pam's apprenticeship was always about health and well-being. Always is, grounding, health and well-being. And Pam has a very, very, very different relationship to alcohol now. And I want you to talk about that, Pam.
Yeah, so yeah, as I said kind of a minute ago, my go-to thing would be, how quick could I get the bottle of wine open when I get in the door from work, type of thing. And that just became a daily thing. And even saying it there, you're like, oh, if I just said that out loud. But the amount of people who in lockdown and stuff who have gone down that same road, and I was at the stage where I had to choose not to drink. If I managed to go a day without alcohol, it was because I had dug my heels in and just, sheer grit and determination. And it didn't happen very often, if I'm honest, because I felt that I needed to have that glass of wine to wind down from myself, from everything that was outside that was annoying me or stressing me out or whatever. And then Jacquie said to me, why don't you try something else as well? And as soon as the option was put in front of me, I was like, oh no, I don't know, oh no. So then, well, you'll just, you'll do things when you're ready. There's no right or wrong answer. There's no rules. You don't have to do this or have to do that.
How often did we speak about it?
Oh, very, very rarely. A couple of times, because I said it was one of the things that I would like to change. But we've very rarely spoken about. I think once in all the times we've spoke that we talked about maybe alternative strategies type of thing. That's only once. So we've not talked about it. And then all of a sudden I'm in supermarkets and stuff, and I'm coming out without buying a bottle of wine. That's odd. And I did joke to Jacquie and say I don't think I've been in a supermarket in the last 20 years and not bought a bottle of wine.
Maybe a pork pie?
It's that whole, the crux thing. You bet on, why don't you buy a box just to make sure instead of the bottle? And it got to the stage where I was doing a good few nights without a drink, and that was almost like effortless. I'm not saying the voice wasn't there, but it certainly wasn't as loud. It was screaming at me before, and then it was like, well, you can if you want, but do you want? Do you know what? I might give it a go not to. I don't think it was even as much effort as that. It just fell away. And I still like drinking. I still had a social evening the other night. Thoroughly enjoyed it. But I know when to stop. You know what I mean? And I don't. It doesn't have to. I don't have to have a drink the next day or whatever. As soon as it hits 5 o'clock. So. Yeah, amazing sort of. It's like a bit of a freedom. It's like you're choosing opposed to the other way around. I think that's how I feel.
I do. I'm so proud of you that you have woken up to it and you're waking up to it. But what I really, really appreciate is that's all come from insight without content. You had no clue that was happening, and you kind of caught yourself in the backdraft, kind of, oh, I'm doing that differently. Why am I doing that differently? Oh, right, that's changed.
Yeah.
But there wasn't this big hallelujah moment of, da-da-da, I don't need to drink anymore. It just gently, and as you said, effortlessly softened.
Yeah. And I think, there's got to be millions of people out there that, especially with lockdown and things like that have got something, whether it be food, alcohol, gambling, some sort. I'll use the word addiction because that's essentially what you're doing, isn't it? I'm sure there's spectrums of people being addicted to different things and stuff like that, but there's people are finding ways of changing the way they feel in a number of different ways that are probably not the healthiest for them.
Absolutely.
And that's something that for me, that's something that I really, really wanted to change, but didn't know if I could actually, and didn't.
You didn't believe. You were really. I mean, let's get real here, Pam. Let's get really, really real here. Tell the people the truth.
Yeah, I didn't believe. I wanted to. Something kept me here, but I just couldn't see it. I couldn't see it, and I just thought, oh God, why am I the one that can't see it? And there's been a couple of times. This isn't just this weekend has been a real revelation in terms of, like I said, the joining the dots is how I would describe it. But it's been a progressive thing. Something's landed, sort of, and I've thought, that's interesting. And then something else has happened. And then something else has unfolded. And then there's almost like an extra tick at the end of the last dot, and you go, yes. And then you cry, and then you laugh, and then you go, I've not got to the bit where, why didn't I do this 20 years ago yet?
No, please don't go there.
I'm not going. And I thought about, shall I? Will I just go there and be a martyr? And I thought, what's the point? Because now I know what I know. There is no point.
There is no point. There is no point.
There's no point. There's nothing to be had from going down there. Just be grateful for where you are now.
And for me, Pam, it's sort of in that recognition. There's also that recognition, you know, that when you're working with others too, as you will be, you know, with your chosen group, and you know, you'll hear more about that from Pam later on, because obviously you're going to hear a lot from her. She's one of my apprentices. Sorry, folks. It's important that you recognise that everyone has something they want to change. Everyone has something, a space or place or something that they take to help them feel better, or something they do to make them feel better. And that's just highly normal. That's just how we all work. It's just because we haven't learned to be comfortable being uncomfortable with our feelings, and recognising that our moods and our thoughts come and go. They don't stay around. They're not fixed. Yeah, it's in these moments of despair we think it is fixed. And because we think it's fixed, we feel we have to do something to get rid of it. And it's also unconscious. Yeah. You're smiling. What's going on in your head?
I'm smiling because I'm listening to you, and the whole thing about the changing lifestyle is a small part for me. Because the biggest thing that's changed is I can be in my own head now, and that is priceless. You know, and a fallout, for want of a better word of that, is that I don't feel like I have to come in every night and open the bottle of wine. And that's fantastic. That is absolutely fantastic. But the beauty is that that's only a small part.
It was a symptom. A symptom of a busy mind. Yeah.
The amount of examples I've got since I've started, you know, working with you, Jacquie, that I would say that I've noticed that before I would have ruminated about something, I would have said, oh, I wished I'd said this, I wished I'd said that, or I wished I'd acted differently, or every night in my head about every scenario at work or in my personal life. I just don't do that anymore.
It's huge, isn't it?
You know, it's in the past, so it's gone. And the future stuff, you know, I was so anxious before as well. It's like, you know, I thought about, like, I do this one thing at a time now and I just love it.
Yeah.
It's just amazing.
I remember the first time I ever saw that, Pam, in my life. It was about sort of 7 or 8 years ago, and I was organising an event at the Scottish Parliament, and I'd invited, you know, Elsie and Chip and Jan and Aaron Turner and Jack Pransky and sort of, you know, all sorts of people to come and speak in the Scottish Parliament with me. But not only did I do that, I invited Judy Banks, Sid's wife, and about 8 other people to come and live in my house in the run up to this happening. So I had our 3 girls, 8 other people who were either vegan, vegetarian, or meat eaters.
Stressful.
Or wheat free, or, you know, gluten free, in the house. And I'm organising this event at the Parliament. And I also organised a social evening before the event at the Parliament for everybody to come and get to know one another at the house. And I remember Elsie saying to me, she says, Jacquie, you've got an awful lot on, you know, you're doing a lot. And it never even occurred to me what I was doing and the magnitude of what I was doing, and at all. Like you've just described, it was like I'm doing this, then I'm doing that, then I'm doing this, then I'm doing that. And it was one of the most beautiful experiences of my life to be.
Yeah.
Just to be. You know, I was laughing with one of my mentees in the States, Sarah, and I was saying to her, I said, I am so laid back about Christmas this year, I'm almost horizontal. I'm just kind of like, whatever. You know, and again, that used to be a huge, big thing for me, of getting the presents, getting everybody organised, doing all this. And this year it's just like, I don't care. Last year it was kind of like, I care a wee bit. You know, and it's just because I know everything's going to be the way it's meant to be. And so what if something's forgotten? So what if somebody says something that's a wee bit dramatic. It's just kind of, all they're showing me is where their state of mind is. They're just revealing where they are in that given moment of time. And it's kind of like, that's okay. There, for the grace of God, go I.
Totally.
You know? It's beautiful. It really is lovely.
Yeah, you do. You when you start to kind of understand this understanding, you realise that you are either living in the past or the future.
Yeah.
All of the time.
Yep.
And it's much nicer just to be in the now.
Uh-huh.
And I didn't even know what that meant. So I sometimes I look back at my life and I just think, oh, what a car crash. And and I just think, goodness me, you know, I just love it. Absolutely love it now. And this is the start, as everybody keeps telling me, that it gets better and better and better, and I'm just like, bring it on.
Absolutely. Well, you said earlier on, you now understand what we mean by stay in the conversation. Because I mentioned earlier, you can have insights with content and insights without content. Yeah. At times you get the big hallelujah epiphanies, or, you know, you see something. I love the ones where I don't see anything, you know, and all of a sudden I find myself doing something in a completely different way. I love that. It's like I get to surprise myself, you know, and surprise other people who are usually standing there with their I was going to say a very Scottish word, with their gobs open, which is their mouth open, kind of going, wait, what? You know, has my mum been different? I remember years ago, I'd arranged the girls were all at university in Glasgow, and I'd arranged to drive through from Edinburgh to see them. And on my way through, the central locking in my car stopped working. And I tried to get it into a garage to get it fixed, and nobody could take it. They were all so busy, nobody could take it. And we were going shopping in some of the roughest areas of Glasgow that day. And I remember picking up the girls and going, well, the central locking's not working. I said, one of us can either stay in the car or we just go out and, you know, whatever's going to happen's going to happen. And they were like, what's wrong with you, Mum? I was like, what do you mean? They're like, normally you'd be like, I have to go home, I can't, no, I'm not doing that, it's not happening. And I just thought it was hysterically funny that here was this car, nobody could fix it, tried 4 or 5 garages, and I'm like, oh, I was going to swear there, but I'm not going to get one of those ratings on, you know, that tell you swearing. I just thought, oh, to hell with it, let's just have our day and see what happens. And do you know what? Nobody stole my car. It was fine.
I know. We all think that everybody's so bothered about us. Everybody's so bothered in their own heads, aren't they?
I know. I remember my grandmother saying that to me. You know, when I was like 5, well, I still am 5'10", maybe. 5'10", and I weighed 125 pounds. And, you know, and I remember saying to my gran, I'm like, I feel fat, Gran, I feel fat. And she says, oh, for goodness sake, Jackie, you're not that interesting. And I remember thinking, I thought my Gran loved me. But, you know, you get to see what she meant. And it's like everybody's so busy in their own heads that it's very rare you'll get a wee glimpse of somebody, you know, making you the focus of their entire life. Anyhow, Pam, it's been a delight to have you here for the weekend. And Pam's just at the beginning of our journey. We're only 3 months into our apprenticeship, which is fabulous because I do love hanging out with her. Any last words, Pam, before I close this off?
Oh, just a huge big thank you for having me this weekend. I'm just so glad that you came into my life. I really am. And it's just been beautiful, and I'll never be able to thank you enough.
Oh, you're going to make me cry. You got to do that. It's you know, like I've always said to you, I just point you to where the door isn't. Yeah. Well, the door that you think's there and the door isn't, and I help you see what you're meant to see, but you're the one that's doing the seeing.
Thanks for inviting me to my first podcast.
Oh, you're welcome. Pam and I have some exciting things planned for the future. No, you've been an excellent guest. You've got a gorgeous voice. You're a gorgeous soul. You really
Likewise.
are. And I'm loving working with you, Pam. Pam is also going to be one of the featured speakers, one of the Emerging Voices speakers that is happening in an event that I'm holding in January. As you all know, it's been a long-held dream of mine to create a school that had an online reach, a global reach. From 2018, I've been running the Scottish 3 Principles School as an in-person school to teach the purity and the simplicity of the three principles as taught by Sid Banks, because to me that's where the magic is, that's where the hope is, that it isn't a complicated thing, it isn't an intellectual thing to understand, it's very much driven by a feeling of knowing, a feeling of seeing, and Pam's just described that beautifully, her experience this weekend and her experience through our calls before she got here. So, I live in a nice place. I have a lovely home. I have a fantastic husband. I have 3 gorgeous daughters. I have a granddaughter. I have a roof over my head. I have enough money to buy food, to live a life that I'm comfortable with and content with. It's a simple life. And my other businesses, the other sub-brands of my business, I do earn very good money, and I wanted to do something different. So in January 2022, I'm holding an event on the 8th, 9th and 10th of January. This event will feature 20 plus speakers from all over the world who are either emerging voices, they've either been apprentices or mentees of mine, or they're new voices that I've heard, and I just love the feeling that they're coming from. And there will be established 3 principles teachers that we all know and love and enjoy their lightheartedness and their wisdom. We're coming together on these 3 days, and you don't even have to attend because everything's going to be recorded and you will have access to it. And we will fit in with global time zones. So you can either be there or be safe in the knowledge that you will be able to listen and hear all of the presentations. I've asked all of the speakers to speak in certain topics. These are topics that to me are relevant for our humanity moving forward into a new year, moving forward at any moment in our life. And they've all loved the topics, which I adore, and it all fits in with my whole thing about being unashamedly human. So the Scottish 3 Principles School will hold this. It's the first of 4 online educational events that we will hold, where all of the profits will go to help others less fortunate than ourselves. And for this first online meeting that we're doing, all of the profits will go to food banks and charities that support families and children who are having mental health problems. And we are going to donate the money to a particular area of Scotland this time round. And the money will go to food banks and charities that are in Leith in Scotland. This is the area where Sid Banks was born. He was educated, he was brought up, and he worked until he left Scotland to go live in Canada. It is an area that is areas of gentrification and areas of absolute poverty and deprivation. It's one of the topics that I have spoken about in the Scottish Parliament frequently, and I've held several meetings in the Scottish Parliament about to try to get change, to try to improve health inequalities, food poverty, poverty in itself. And I am just so delighted that I sent out an email to my colleagues and friends on Thursday last week, and within 24 to 48 hours, everyone apart from one person came back to me and said that they would be absolutely delighted to take part. They love the theme, they love what we're doing, and they're delighted to see a school extending its reach globally, a local school extending its reach globally to help others. So there is an early bird ticket. It is £147 for 3 days, over 20 speakers. It is an absolute steal. And by purchasing this ticket, you are giving yourself the opportunity to improve your grounding and understanding of the principles. You are giving yourself the opportunity to learn more about yourself as we head into a new year. You're also going to learn how to share this understanding more simply, more practically, in the areas of your life where you want to be able to share this understanding. We're going to be talking about grief, we're going to be talking about love, we're going to be talking about mystery and wonder and all sorts of topics that are just so heartwarming, that will really tickle your soul. And as well as that, you're getting to know the Scottish 3 Principles School You're getting to help others who are less fortunate. The sales page is now up and running, or it will be when this podcast goes live. And all I can say to you guys is please join us. Please help us make a difference. All of the profits of any course that the Scottish Three Principles School does will be donated. This time it's in Scotland. Who knows where else it's going to be in the future? We're open, we're listening, and we just want to thank all of you for taking the time to listen to the podcast and to listen to me talking about the school.
You could be larger than life, bigger than the world, living out the hopes and dreams of every boy and every girl. You could fly higher than the sky, shine brighter than the stars. You can have all you ever hopes and dreams, every boy. You could fly higher than the sky, shine brighter than the stars. You could have all you ever wanted. You know you could.